everybody, and welcome to another video in the Craft Fair Insider. Welcome. My name is Bill Mason, and I've been selling both online and at in-person craft fairs since around 2016. This is, I guess, it's technically my second video, but let's call it the first that actually has a topic. And today I want to talk to you all about craft fairs themselves. So whether you are brand new to craft fairs, you're thinking about starting them, maybe you already sell online, or you've been doing craft fairs, maybe they haven't quite been working out for you. Question is, have you hit the right one? Really, there is such a wide variety of types of craft fairs that are out there. I think we use that term pretty loosely, and they're not all created equal. There's pros and cons to each of them. So I thought I'd share my experiences with you. These are broad brush statements in a lot of cases. So I'm going to present it in terms of low barrier to entry to a little bit harder to get into type activities. And you can be successful depending on what you sell at any one of these events. But certainly somebody who is a high-end jewelry maker may not do well at some of the lower ones for many reasons, but we'll get into that. So as this is a brand new channel, if you think these kinds of topics are going to be interesting to you, then please like this video and subscribe. We're going to be doing mixes of things both online and at in-person, because I don't think I've seen a lot out there. I've seen a lot of videos for people that sell just online and videos for people that just sell at craft fairs. But there's some unique challenges for us that do both, from inventory and all sorts of other logistics. Anyway, let's get started into our journey on craft fairs. Starting with the low barrier to entry, and what I mean by that is, they're pretty inexpensive. A lot of times, maybe there's not even per se an application to fill out. You're just emailing the coordinator and sort of showing up at that day. And the lowest one I think of as flea markets. There are two types of flea markets, because that word also can be used a little bit differently. For the most part, a flea market, the way I look at it, is big old public yard sale. So you will get your table, and most of the things that are there are at the lower end of prices. People have that expectation of bargaining. So you have something marked for 20 bucks. They're like, I'll give you 10 for it. Well, how about 15? Okay, 15, and then it's sold. This could be fantastic for anybody that already sells vintage on something like Etsy or eBay. You may supplement your weekends with flea markets, and right there you'll have that exchange back and forth if you want, and that can work out great for you. But if you sell, handcrafted, really expensive items, that may not be the audience for you. So you would want to look for other opportunities. Now, flea market sometimes can mean something completely different. You have to kind of know and figure out what one you're getting into. So there's some things called, usually it's in the more of the oddities kind of market. So there's a real famous one, the Trenton punk rock flea market. Again, a little bit more on the oddity side, offbeat stuff, as in the name punk rock. So there's some horror genre mixed into that often. They use the terminology of flea market, even though it's not, the traditional kind that you would have. And actually, I should correct myself. They just changed their name to the New Jersey punk rock flea market, because they're in multiple locations now. Sorry guys if you're watching this. So if we want to tier up one level from that, it would be a pop-up market. Pop-ups are usually in addition to another store or restaurant. So you could see a pop-up sometimes in malls. You could see some pop-ups sometimes in a brewery or maybe a winery. And the people that do well there are the ones that have some kind of connection to the event. So, you probably wouldn't want to do, I'm trying to think, like, I don't know, maybe scented floral candles at a brewery. That might not be a great fit for that event. But if you do have items that are tied to drinking, I know there's people that do like cork art and things like that. That would be a great piggyback. Sometimes people are there for the craft fair. Sometimes people are there for the drinking. So you don't want to have a lot of, I would think, large items that people are going to have to lug around. Have your item in one hand and then a little wine glass in another, unless you're really close to parking and they could throw it in the car and then come back in. So that's a option there, pop-up market. They're also usually not super expensive because it's not a big event. Depending on the organizer, there could be a little bit of advertising, or they could be relying on you for your advertising. But I wouldn't expect tremendous crowds coming to pop-up markets. The next one is what I call the craft fair add-on. These are things like music festivals or car shows, where shopping is not the main intent for people attending the activity. So you're going to have your car shows. Oh, and we're also going to have a section of crafters. Kind of back to the pop-up markets, if you have things that tie to the event or the activity, that will certainly, I think, be a little bit better for you, because think about it in terms of the person attending that event. So it's a music festival. If they're going to watch a bunch of bands, did I say vans? Bands. Are they going to want to be carrying your item for maybe multiple hours? In some cases, they're not. What I have heard when people post questions in like Facebook groups about whether or not they should go to this kind of event, it goes back to, what do you sell? So if you sell apparel and the apparel kind of matches the vibe and interests of the people that would like the bands and musicians that are playing, fantastic. If you have, attire that fits with the car theme, again, fantastic. That would probably be great, because they may not carry it. They may decide to just put the shirt on right there and wear that for the rest of the day. And who knows? Maybe they'll get asked where they got the shirt, and they'll send them to your booth. Perfect world, free advertising. Gotta love it. Anyway, the hard part about that one is, and I think the organizers that do those think they're doing everyone a favor, attendees and the crafters, in making that space available. It doesn't always work out, but again, some of you could be listening to this and be screaming at the TV or computer monitor or phone, saying how wrong I am, because these are the kinds of things that work out for you, and that is fantastic. Again, just broad statements about different perceptions of these kinds of events. So the one thing that I wanted to add in, and I wasn't quite sure where to put it, would be farmers markets. Now, farmers markets are different in that a craft fair you might have, one day or over a weekend, compared to a farmers market that would be every Saturday or every Sunday for several months. And you can sign up for, in some cases, sometimes you have to sign up for the entire season. The people that generally get accepted into those are ones that have some close relationship to food. So it could be maybe candles, a little bit of a stretch. Obviously, if you do any kind of edible items, you're in for that. It could be soaps and body butters and things like that. That could fit into a farmer's market vibe. Uh, they might throw in an occasional, handcrafted vendor. I don't know. It's really a coin toss, I guess I would say. If you're a ceramics person, you're the only ceramics person there. You might do well because you're the only ceramics person there. Or you could do really badly because no one was expecting that. You might want to give it a try. Sometimes a single weekend, not super expensive, and it could be an opportunity, again, to practice your setup or just see if it's something that works for you. The next tier up has a little bit more of a range to it, but definitely, I think, a different kind of vibe. And they are school and church craft fairs. Now, some of them can be a little bit pricey. It depends on the number of people and the size of the event. Some of them can be very small and very inexpensive. And I'll throw in fire stations with that too. Sometimes fire stations do some fundraising, and they'll do that with little craft fairs. Generally speaking, these have less advertising. It usually will benefit children in some way, shape, or form. I've vended at some where the money goes to the band. I've done some where it goes to after-school activities. Many times these are run by somebody in the PTA, Parent Teacher Association, or maybe a teacher as a side gig. They may or may not be experienced at running craft fairs, so the level of communication and organization can certainly vary. I've been to some that have been running for, almost 50 years, and it's an engine, and it's well run, and when they do make changes, it's usually off of seller feedback where they're going in and doing something a little bit differently. Generally works. Certainly can appreciate that. The thing about these kinds of fairs are, because they're schools and churches, there's a lot of schools and churches in neighborhoods. So you could have 3 or 4 in a 10-mile radius going on in the same day, or there's ones the week after, or there's one the week before. Shoppers have a tremendous amount of options to choose from as to whether or not they're going to go to that school's craft fair. They could be craft faired out. So that's something just to think about when you're doing that. Think about what else is going on in those neighborhoods in that time period and see if it's something that's right for you. A lot of the ones that we talked about, because they are lower barrier to entry, are great opportunities to practice. So even if you don't sell very much, even if you don't make your table feedback, look at it as a learning opportunity. How long did it take you to set up? Because you could do a setup at your house before going to an event as a dry run, but I think actually showing up, having your car parked wherever you need to, the amount of time it takes to get into the building, to set it up, or dump your stuff where your space is and then go park somewhere, that can change the amount of time it takes you to set up. I think in addition to that, the advertised space may be a little wonky compared to what it is when you get there. There could be some dips in outdoor spaces that makes it a little hard or unusable, and your ability to react to that and still have a great setup, I think, is important. So I rarely think that there is such a thing as a bad craft fair in the grand scheme of all of the ones that you do. So take it as a learned opportunity. And it's also, I mean, this tax deductible, that was your fee to get in, that's a business expense. Okay, so let's move on to what I'm calling just craft fairs. And this one also has a bit of a broad definition. So when I think about a craft fair in its purest sense, they are often outdoors, a lot of times in towns where they're going to shut down an entire street for the event. They are usually a little bit bigger in size than like a school event or a flea market, even though some flea markets can be giant if you have a sort of formal professional space for that location. Sometimes craft fairs can have all handmade items, and sometimes they open it up to community businesses as well. So you could have a candle maker, a soap maker, and then gutter guard, and then a wood sign place, and then a tumbler place. You know, so that mix of businesses or insurance agencies, state representatives, political folks, if it is political season and an election is coming up, you know, so you have to be prepared too for having non-crafters near you. Personally, hate them because some of them can be super aggressive, or some of them can have a giant table full of freebies. And so you have all these people coming just to get your free keychain or your free, you know, Coke can, cozy or whatever with their logo on it. No interest in buying anything, and probably no interest in the insurance that they're selling either. But the ones that are really aggressive are the ones that are like standing in front of their tents, saying, you know, oh, do you have a card? Do you have a card? Do you have a card? Do you have who your insurance? What you end up with is people on either side of them running pretty quickly past your tent to avoid that salesperson and then on. But that's, I mean, luck of the draw, so to speak. Try saying something. It often doesn't go well. Like, you know, stay within your tent. What I want to say is stay within your tent. Those are the rules. You get your 10 by 10 space. Get in there and stop scaring away my customers. That's my inside voice. Not necessarily what I say out loud. So another variable there, and you would find this out when you're doing your application process to it, is are they limiting the number of the kind of merchandise is being sold? So are they allowing, you know, a certain number of candle vendors, and then once they meet that number of candle vendors, they're done, and automatically anybody who applies after that would be just denied? That is from a vendor perspective, and I also think from a attendee perspective, it gives a better mix of items at the fair, and you're not competing with 20 candle makers if you sell candles. So of course the ones that usually get capped off, soap, candles, jewelry. Jewelry's the big one. Jewelry is and can be a very challenging business to sell in at craft fairs because they're the first one that tends to get sold out. I'm sure something else is going to come to me after this video is recorded. If there's a hard or difficult niche that you've experienced, put it in the comments, let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys on what your thoughts are on when you have to battle to get into an event. Sometimes they are juried and sometimes they're not. So what's a juried craft fair? Juried craft fair is when they open up the application period. Let's say they give you the month of We're in April, so you have the month of April, and then on May 1st, we're going to make our decisions. And a group of people get together, and they review all the applications, and then they accept or deny people entry into the fair. And in a lot of those cases, they are looking at things like, do you have a social media presence? Are there a lot of followers in your Instagram account or TikTok accounts? Are there pictures of your setup? Does it look real sloppy, or does it look clean, professional, and nice? And does it fit the vibe of the craft fair? You can have amazing, beautiful, handmade products in a really well set up space, but if it doesn't match the vibe of the craft fair itself, sometimes you could get denied for that, and it's hard to put into words. But I think if I were to say, if you're thinking about product photography and you're uploading on Etsy, there's an Etsy aesthetic. I think everybody kind of knows what that is, but it might be hard to put it into words and to define it. It's sort of the I know it when I see it kind of answer, very unfulfilling answer. So it could just be they're going for more of a certain type of events, and what you can do is before you sign up for one of those, very often they are going to have a Facebook page. Often the big ones will also have a website. They will have an Instagram account. Flip back through the pictures. Go to the website of the event and see what vendors have been there in the past, and just kind of check them out and see if you fit into that kind of vibe. It won't hurt anything sometimes to go ahead and apply. There is some cases an application fee, and that application fee is non-refundable. So it could be $10 up to 50 in some cases. So you have to be willing to let that money go if there is the fee for them to do that. The ones that are juried that have a higher fee, the ones that have that application fee, a lot of times also they will do advertising, and not just like the school and church fair ones. A lot of times it'll be like, in their PTA newsletter or on the website for the parents. So it's a big group of people, but it's not a broad audience. These craft fair ones a lot of times do billboards, maybe radio ads, Facebook ads. It just depends. Particularly, around Christmas time, once you get into fall festival season or into the Christmas bazaar season, sometimes they're competing with each other, so they try to do some more advertising. I've definitely done some of them. There's one they do out in Harrisburg, PA, that they buy 3 billboards, and it has been damp, rainy, kind of a miserable day in some cases, and people come out to that. That somehow they're able to create a great environment at the event, and so I look forward to going to that one every year because it's bringing the people in. Next up then is going to be art fairs. Now these are the snooty cousins of craft fairs, and a lot of times you're seeing more painters that attend those events. You have potters, that make really expensive pieces, sort of a bit of a higher end, both customer and craft. So if you buy a bunch of beads and you string it on some wire and call it a day as a jewelry maker, that might work great at the school fairs. or pop-up markets or things like that, but it probably would not get you into an art fair where you have somebody who is literally soldering and creating pieces by hand off of little components, jewels, stones, things like that, and creating the settings. Those are the ones that are going to fit in the art fair. Definitely a little bit harder to get into those. Definitely more expensive. And it doesn't mean that you're going to be making a ton more money either at those events. You can have a lot of people showing up. It could be 15, 20,000 people, 30,000 people at an event. And if they don't want what you're selling, then you could possibly not do well there. It's not the amount of money you spend on an event is not a guarantee that you're going to make money out of it. I'm going to end with the expo events. So expos are generally inside things like convention centers. So it is hundreds of vendors. It is generally themed. You see this a lot with oddities markets. Now, I think the difference between an expo and an art and craft fair is most of the expos that you're going to vend at are a once a year activity. So if there's a oddities market that comes to town at the event, it'll be like every September. So you have people that are planning to go to this event. Sometimes, and very frequently, it's a ticketed entry. So they might be spending $5 to get in to have the opportunity to shop and find the unique things that would not be at the local craft fairs and things like that. And I know oddities markets are growing in popularity a little bit. You're seeing them a smidge more in the smaller scale. But it could be, a home show, or it could be a flower show. And if what you sell, again, fits into that niche, kind of like the craft add-on markets, you could do fairly well at an expo center. But like I said, because it is that once a year, you have certainly a lot less competition. What you're going to find at that event, you're not going to also find, with 9 other opportunities in that same month. So it's in a way a little bit different of a comparison there. So hopefully my list of craft fairs has had you thinking a little bit more about the ones that you've attended, or maybe it's interested you enough to look a little more into ones in your area to take your first step in there. So wanted to thank you all for listening to me. Again, since this is one of the first videos that we're doing, we'd love it if you were to like this video and subscribe. And if there's topics that you would love for me to explore in this new channel, what are your challenges with having a craft fair business with an online selling business and how they merge together? Let me know, and it might just be a topic in a future video. So thank you very much for listening, everybody, and good luck out there.